everybody. This is Linda. Welcome to our online bariatric support group for November. We are so lucky to have Cindy with us for November and December to do cooking demonstrations again. She has great recipes and I think you're gonna love it. I did want to also mention we're gonna have a short video that I'm gonna do about some holiday eating tips, and we will post that on the website as well. And we want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving, and we're going to turn it over to Cindy now. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I hope that you're going to have a nice holiday. So right now I'm going to make you two different dishes. One is going to be a pork tenderloin with rosemary and a Fiji apple, and I'm going to be making that in a pressure cooker, or you could also cook it in an Instapot. So along with that, I'm going to make a side dish of roasted Brussels sprouts. So in the roasted Brussels sprouts, we're going to have obviously Brussels sprouts, some grated, and then parmesan, and then I'm going to shred some parmesan as well on top, with salt and pepper. And then the pork tenderloin roast, 1 pound pork tenderloin, and we're going to use some Dijon mustard, an onion, a Fiji apple, about a medium size, some olive oil, some apple cider vinegar, and you want it to be raw with mother in it, and you can tell when it has on the bottom. It's better for your system. And we're going to use some black pepper, salt, and we're going to use some rosemary. We're going to crush that up. So that's a pretty quick, simple recipe. It's going to take about 30 minutes to cook. Prep time is about 10 minutes, and we're going to cook it right in the Instapot. And then we're going to roast the Brussels sprouts, and we're going to go through all of that, and I'm going to cook that in my air fryer. Okay? So let's get started. So one of the things we're going to use in the pork tenderloin is an onion. So I'm going to slice the onion, and then I'm going to dice it up. So we're going to prep this up. I'm going to peel it. However you like. I don't have great knife skills, but you know, I can cook, so. It's my claim to fame is cooking, not really the knife procedures. But hey, you know, I have a prep mat. It tells you how to cut all different styles and stuff, but I'm going to use this here. So I'm just going to have to cut this into a couple of chunks to get that done. So I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry during film. So I'm just going to cut this into a couple of pieces, halves, quarters. I'm just going to toss it in here. It's got a blade. Pretty much fine chop on the onion. And first thing we're going to do, go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to season the pork tenderloin with some salt and some pepper, and then I'm going to sear all the sides in our quick cooker. So I'm just going to liberally use salt. It's the best time to season it, because when it's raw, it's going to absorb more of the salt. You do what you want as far as the salt goes. Liberally, obviously, we all want to control our salt. So I'm just going to turn this over and do the same to the other side. Okay, so in the Instapot, I have it on sear, and I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of olive oil on the bottom, just to coat it, because as I said, we're going to sear the pork. And if you don't have an Instapot, you can put it in the oven, roast it in the oven, but you'll want to sear the pork before you put it in the oven. It'll help give it a nice texture on the outside of it, brown it. So we're gonna just put it in here. We're gonna brown all sides, and then we're going to add the onion to this and saute the onion. At which point we're gonna add in the rosemary and the apple, and close it up. And it's going to take about 30 minutes to cook. So we're just browning it on all sides. And put a nice sear on it. So I'm going to slice up use a Fuji apple, medium size. We're going to slice it up. Okay, so we're going to check on it and see how well browned it is. It's been in here probably about 5 minutes right now. Either side, so it's nice and brown. And it's got nice brown bits on the bottom of the pan. And I'm going to take that out and I'm going to brown the onions in there. It's about what you're looking for. You want it nice and brown. Like I said, it's been in there about 5 minutes. Set it aside. We got all those nice brown bits in there. We're going to put the onion in there and brown the onion up. We put our one yellow onion into the pan. It's still on sear. And I'm just going to get around. Start browning it. Get all the bits on the bottom. The onion nice and caramelized. So we're doing this. Help clean the bottom of the pan. Saute the onions a little bit, and we're going to add to that about 14 ounces of chicken broth. We'll put the roast back in. Let's get the rest of these onions in there. Alright, so just have to set that aside. I'm going to go get the chicken broth. Okay, so checking on the onions, they're nice and brown. What we're going to do is, to this, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of raw apple cider vinegar, and you want to have the mother in it. It's better for you. So give it a good shake because she settles to the bottom. It's good for your intestines. So we're going to use 2 tablespoons of this. It's going to help get some of those brown bits off the bottom. And to that, we're going to add about a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Whatever you prefer. You can use the grains kind or without. I prefer the smooth. And we're just going to put that in. Stir it around. And to this, we're going to add about 14 ounces of low sodium chicken broth. 14 ounces. So we got 8 here. We put in 14 ounces of the chicken broth. Eight. And 6 more ounces. Sure. 14. I'm just going to set this aside. Give this a quick whirl. Stop that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the apple in that we've sliced up. After all, it is pork with rosemary and apple. So we're going to put that in there. And on top of that, we're going to put the roast back in there. I don't have my kitchen.
You're out of your element.
Exactly. So we're going to put the browned pork back in. And nestle it in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get some rosemary. A spoon of rosemary. So dried is better. So I want it crushed, so I'm just going to crush it with my hands. So I put it in. I like to rub my hands to kind of break it up. It opens up the flavor if you put it into the roast. So it helps open up the aroma of the dried rosemary. Then we're going to put the lid on, and then we're going to set it for about 20 minutes on the stove. So if you don't have the quick cooker, you could cook the pork tenderloin in, I would advise a cast iron pan, because it's still using just one pan. So you'll use the same amount of oil, you'll sear it in the cast iron pan, you'll set it aside once it's browned on all sides. You'll do the same with the onions until they're caramelized, break up all the brown bits on the bottom, add in the Dijon mustard, the chicken broth, and then the apples, and then put the tenderloin back in, crush up the rosemary on top, and put it into the oven with foil on the top. And again, I would set it probably for about 350, maybe 30 minutes at best. Low and slow to be a tender cut of meat when you're done. We've waited for it to depressurize, so it's very important that you do not do that until the pin is dropped. You either do it naturally, let it do over time on its own, or you push the button to release the air, and then step back, because this is going to be hot, high pressure heat coming out. So make sure you do give yourself lots of space. I like to let it do it naturally, because as you can see, there's nothing coming out. It's already cooled down. The pin is dropped. I'm just going to turn this, and there it is. And we're just going to take it out. Okay, so for a side dish, what we're going to have is roasted Brussels sprouts. So for that, we're going to need some Brussels sprouts. There's a pound of Brussels sprouts here. And then we're going to use some grated Parmesan cheese. And then I'm going to shred some fresh Parmesan cheese. Just get yourself a nice chunk. It's good, and when you get to the rind, it's good to throw it into a soup or something. It adds extra flavor to it. So you use the whole piece of it eventually. It also freezes well, the rind, until you're ready to use it in a soup or something, or stew. Okay, so we've already washed these. I'm just going to cut the ends off. You can do this one of two ways. You can leave them whole when you roast them, or you can shred them. You can cut them in half. I'm just going to cut them in half so they get more of that roasted flavor all over. So once I cut off the end pieces here, and toss it in here where we're going to put all of the salt, pepper, olive oil, and the Parmesan cheese. I am going to slice them in half so they get a little more roasted on all sides. Need about two tablespoons of olive oil. Actually, the cap's probably going to be a good gauge for the 2 tablespoons, because it's probably more along the half tablespoon. So we'll do half of those. And then we're going to put some salt and pepper. And again, about a teaspoon. Salt, same thing, about a teaspoon. Maybe half. I'm gonna go with half. Sorry.
You're the boss. You're the chef.
And then I think I want to add to that. It's not on this, but what I'm going to do is, are you still filming?
I'm filming it.
Okay. So what I think I'm going to add to it is some garlic. And I'm going to put maybe in that, maybe 2 cloves of garlic in this. Just press it. Oh, my fresh garlic, about a teaspoon, will compensate for about what I put in there. And then we're going to add to that about a half a cup of grated Parmesan cheese. So, just gonna gauge it. It's probably about a half cup there. And we're going to just stir this up. Coat it well. And then we're going to spray the pan. So whatever kind of spray you have, this is just extra virgin olive oil spray that we're going to use. Preferences, so I'm just going to coat the pan. We're going to dump the Brussels sprouts out onto the pan. Then, don't want any of that cheese to get away. And I'm going to add to that some grated Parmesan cheese on the top. And just shred it across the top. I prefer using fresh shredded cheese because, believe it or not, as I said before, they use something similar to sawdust to keep the stuff from sticking together as it's in transport. So it's probably about a quarter of a cup of this cheese. And we're just going to toss this into the oven. We're going to put it in the air fryer. This is my air fryer. If you don't have an air fryer, do the same thing, but put it in the oven about 400 degrees. And I would say probably about 20 to 30 minutes because obviously the air fryer is going to cook it better and faster. Okay, so just going to set it in here. Close it up. And just dial in. I'm going to put it on air fry. It's going to take about 25 minutes in here or less. But I'm going to put it on 20 because it'll cook faster than your oven.
Cool.